Today is day 15 of 90 of the live Facebook challenge for Team Heart. And today I just wanted to briefly talk about living in our own reality. So here is kind of my basis for my conversation. Have you ever been in a situation, like especially with siblings, where you get together and you start talking about a past story, something that happened, to your family or some event. And next thing you know, everybody is disagreeing on how it happened. And everyone thinks that their version of how it happened is really how it happened. Well, that's because we all see reality through our own filters. And what's real for me is not going to be what's real for you. And how I experience the world is not going to be how you experience the world. So I've always found this absolutely fascinating, that me and my brothers, who raised by the same people, raised in the same environment, have completely different stories sometimes of our growing up years. And I find that it's both entertaining sometimes and frustrating, because I'm like, no, you don't remember when that happened? And they're like, that's never happened. But to me, it did happen. And I began to really think about that. And one of the things that I've discovered, especially with my mom having Alzheimer's, is that what I think in my mind is how I create my world. And with my mom having Alzheimer's, she's not part of my world. Like, she's not living in my world and my version of reality. She's locked in her own version of reality. And the way she sees things or the way she believes things to be, you cannot argue her out of that. Like, whether it's different or not. So here's a prime example. Before my mom couldn't communicate well anymore, she had a conversation with me one day. She just seemed to be sad, and I asked her what was going on, and she started telling me about how her mom died. And I was there. I found my grandmother's body. I know how she died. I know how the whole thing unfolded. And, here she is telling me this story of my grandmother's passing and her funeral and all the things that surrounded it, and not one word out of her mouth was truth. Nothing. It was like she was telling me about a completely different person. And I had the option to sit there and argue with her about why what she was saying wasn't real or what wasn't true. But all that would have done is stressed her out, stressed me out, and caused problems. Instead, I just listened and I let her verbalize what was making her sad about the whole thing. Whether it was real to me or not, it was very real to my mom in that moment, and it was causing her emotions to swing into sadness. And allowing her to hold my hand and cry about what she believed was the truth was all she needed to move on in that moment. And sometimes I think that we get so caught up in making our reality be everybody else's reality that we forget that how everyone sees the world is different. And sometimes we just need to listen. We just need to let people verbalize and work through their reality till they can get to a point where they've joined the rest of us. And I don't think that, that means that the crazy guy in the corner that mumbles to himself and thinks like he's talking to strangers that aren't there needs to be your best friend. But I also think that you can't judge that person, because you don't know what's going on in his mind, and you don't know the traumas he's maybe lived through that have put him in that situation. So I've struggled with my mom having Alzheimer's. It's very emotional, and it can be very difficult and very sad. And I have an aunt who is going through it on my husband's side of the family with her husband, and watching how she struggles every day is very heartbreaking. But my mom's given me a gift, and she's taught me to live in the moment, because I don't have the past with my mom anymore. She doesn't remember the past. And I don't have the future with her because 2 minutes from the moment I'm speaking to her, she won't remember anything that I've said. So I can't plan a future with my mother. I only have the moment I have when I'm with her. And she's teaching me a lot about living in the moment, enjoying the moment as it comes, and not being so caught up in what the past is and what the future could bring, and just loving where I'm at that moment in time. Everyone has a gift to teach us, no matter what the situation is, no matter how crazy it may seem. So here is just my little share for you today. Don't judge people in their moments and in their version of reality, because something has occurred within them to create that version of reality. And you might not agree with it, but for them it's the truth. And you don't have to be right to have a relationship with someone. You can't accept them where they're at and you be where you are at, and still have a great relationship and still love each other and still support each other. So that's my challenge to you guys. Figure out who you've been sitting in judgment on and let it go. Just allow them to be who they are and let them see their version of reality is not affecting your version of reality. You get to choose how you function in this world. So make it a great one. But be loving and be kind and pass by judgment. It's not necessary. I love you all. I hope you have a great, fantastic weekend, and I will see you tomorrow.